Hi Chris, how are you?
Good evening, Rod. Here we are. It's episode 137. Apparently it's glow time. I'm not sure what that means. And it's the 9th of the 9th, 2024. And I've got espresso to wake me up.
Well, I'm on coffee, but a joke we've made a couple of times now that I'm going to stick with is it's the Apple event. That's why we're called this episode Glow Time. If we'd said, let's do a shot of tequila or rum or even a sip of your beer every time they said machine learning or Apple intelligence, the Apple event there, you'd have two very different podcasters right now.
Yeah, quite. I don't think we would be capable because they did a lot. I also wanted to add in every time they did a slow, and I mean slow pan to the next location, it just seemed to take forever. And I was just like, just go on with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think they should have called it Slowtime because that took a very long time, and you're quite right. It was all a bit delayed.
Yeah, all a bit delayed. I'm guessing we're going to dispense with any follow-up. I don't think we have any at the moment. And we're going to
I don't think we've got it.
Okay.
Our tradition is that whenever there's an Apple event, we just deal with the Apple event.
I think that's wise, given it was like 90 minutes long. I missed bits of it and came back, and they were still talking about the same product when I left, which just blew my mind because I don't think that, well, spoiler, I don't think there was a huge amount to say.
Well, the rumour mill was pretty much bang on, I think.
Which is annoying, to be honest, because it's nice when they drop something that we have no idea about.
Yeah, it's got harder and harder over the years, and I will give Apple credit for that, you know, for a long time they managed to keep it entirely secret, and I'm not surprised, really, that it's got so much better. And things like hardware features are easier to leak than software features. But we knew what was coming in software because of WWDC, so there was no shockers there.
Yeah, true, and they often do a recap, you know, a review of what they've already announced, I guess.
They do. Shall we get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it then. So where we're going to start, right at the top with Tim introducing us.
Too soon. I want to talk about the pre-event. I want to talk about the little B-roll that they run while you're waiting for it to start on YouTube and on Apple. So if you go to the Apple Events channel on your Apple TV, it now no longer exists, and it takes you to the Apple TV Plus app where you can watch it. So I don't know if you even went there to look for it, but that was the first thing. It's been there for a while, but I just remembered to talk about it this time.
No, I just went into the Apple TV app. But I use the Apple TV app all the time.
Only when there's new slow horses, which we're not going to talk about this week, sadly. But yeah, I just want to say how bad the music was at the start. And either that's a sign I'm very old, or I don't know who the artists are, or both, possibly. But I did a little sham search for one of them, and it was by an artist called Negi Gemma, who I've never heard of. Negi Gemma. And then the second song, just before the event started, Shazam couldn't recognize it. So it's too cool even for Shazam.
I just thought, to me, the music was very forgettable. That's what I'm going to go with. I just don't remember any of it. It was just all a bit flat.
I'm sure it's an excellent opportunity for new artists to be showcased, but I'm not going to go looking for Negi Gemma again.
Agreed.
Never mind Negi Gemma, it's Negi Rod. Anyway, let's get straight into it and we'll talk about the event itself. And you're quite right. We zoomed in on him, didn't we?
We zoomed in on Tim by the Apple stage. I mean, Apple Park always looks good, but it was a cloudy day. Like the weather was not helping. Like I don't think it helped my mood. It all just seemed a bit dull.
I was glad poor Tim wasn't on the roof this time because I was a bit worried about him sliding off last event. So I'm glad they put him back by the rain stage.
Yep. And then so we're into Tim. I do like it when Tim just says we are just going to talk about these three events and we're not going to talk these three products and we're not going to talk about anything else. I thought that was...
They did, and there was a bit of a sort of show reel at the start with an ad really talking about, and they showed the watch, AirPods and iPhones obviously, with features like assistive touch, dictation, crash detection, FaceTime, live captionings, AFib detection for the watch, music for motivation. It was all very life affirming and positive. Almost exactly the kind of overview thing you'd expect Apple to do, but even that felt a bit long.
Everything just felt long. They needed an editor to come in, and you could have shaved 20 minutes out of that without any real hard work.
Absolutely. And then Tim hit the 3 points that he wanted to touch on in this event about health, connectivity, and productivity, and lastly, to be entertained. And the entertained really felt very tacked on. This was really about let's showcase these primary things for our health, our connected ecosystem, and how productive we all are using Apple products. And as a sideline to keep it entertained, Apple TV Plus, we can dispense with that straight away. There was almost no mention. In fact, I don't think there was any mention of Apple TV Plus. This was really a heavy focus on the watch, the AirPods, and the phones.
Which, given how long it is and how many people watch it. I was amazed they didn't just do something, just because a trailer of your up and coming stuff. There was just nothing.
No, there was nothing. I mean, there was some clips featured in the background, but even, and I really don't understand this, and maybe we should just deal with it at the top of the show, that there was some filmic stuff mentioned towards the end in the iPhone bit, and they didn't use any Apple, TV Plus content, which could have been filmed on a phone, to do that. It was just actors talking about stuff, and not well-known actors. I presume they're from the Bay Area and all the rest of it, but that feels like an opportunity squandered to me. Surely they're filming some Apple TV Plus content on these devices, and I'm getting ahead of myself anyway. I feel that's a missed opportunity for them.
Yeah, maybe they missed it there.
Maybe. Anyway, they started with the watch. And Tim gets a lot of email about the watch, people saving people's lives, the AFib stopped their father dying, or somebody had a stroke that came up to them, or they had a car crash, and Tim always gets an email. He must get a lot of email, because there's a lot of iPhones out there, and I presume they're doing good stuff all the time. But I thought that was a funny place to start, really.
Yeah, agreed. I think it was a funny place to start, but I kind of see it though, because they're trying to say, look, people love this thing and they love it so much they email the CEO of the largest company in the world to tell him. I'd love to know who triages his email and pulls out all those comments.
You must have a fleet of assistants helping him out with that. Anyway, they got straight on and they talked about the new Series 10 Apple Watch. They said it had a beautiful new design, and not to be too negative right from the off, but it looked like a rounded rectangle to me.
I've always liked the Apple Watch design, but I think we're ready for something a little different. But this didn't look really like, if you held this one and the previous gen up to somebody, I'm not sure you'd be able to tell.
Without seeing one in person, I guess it's quite hard to say. But this is the Series 10 Apple Watch. They claim it's got a bigger display. It always amuses me when they go back a couple of generations to really sort of find the difference between what happened. So the shout out in the video was it's 30% bigger display than the Series 6 Apple Watch. Well, that was 4 generations ago. That's a hell of a reach.
That is a reach. So the new display is 46mm for the big one and 42mm for the smaller one, which 42mm I think is bigger than what the big one was all those years ago.
Yeah, it was. But all that gives one additional line of text.
Yeah, it was a bit anticlimactic, wasn't it, I thought?
A little bit. There was every so often it was going on, I picked out a phrase that I really quite liked that means nothing. Apparently, this new display bonds ionic dye housing at a molecular level. Isn't that just what happens? Painting probably bonds at a molecular level.
Yeah. The watch, some of the stuff they talked about, I thought with the watch sounded okay and was interesting, but it still looks the same. It runs the same OS. I don't know, it was just a bit anticlimactic, I think. I don't know, I really struggled to get into it. And I know I'm not an Apple Watch wearer, but I was just struggling to see, well, what's new? What's really new since I stopped wearing my Apple Watch Ultra 2 a couple of years ago? Or even really the Series 7 I had before that. Just not a lot. Lots of incremental stuff, give them that. And it was a solid incremental update, but which I guess is better than previous years.
Yeah, and again, I'm going to stop being negative now. It's 10% thinner than the Series 9. That's meaningful. I think I'm an Apple Watch Ultra wearer. Spoilers, hasn't changed. But I think thinness in a watch is a good thing, and that will offset the fact that they're a little bit larger.
I think it's
larger
good, yeah, because it differentiates between the Ultra, doesn't it? So it's thinner, it's got a bigger screen, you've got that bit of product differentiation.
Yeah, and it's got a speaker now. I'm not looking forward to that. Every sort of tube in London or bus somebody who's got an Apple Watch Series 10 will now get to hear tinny noises blasting out of that, as well as their iPhones.
I would assume you're going to have to, make some effort to make noise come out of it. I'm assuming it won't just do it by default.
Yeah, okay. We will see. I would suspect if you don't have AirPods, on, then, and you don't have your iPhone, it'll probably just play it, no?
Yeah, maybe it's in the detail of how they've done it. I find there's nothing more irritating than listening to somebody else's audio though when I'm on public transport.
I agree. It now has faster charging. It will charge to 80% in 30 minutes. They didn't say from what. Let's presume that's from empty, in which case that's really good.
I was hoping it was going to do Qi 2 charging, because I thought always having its own little puck was great to begin with, but now we've got magnetic charging everywhere. I was really hoping that it was going to be in more play. It was going to be able to use a normal charger, because that always annoyed me. I needed a separate charger, but c'est la vie.
Yeah. It's got a new finish. It comes in titanium instead of stainless steel this time, so it weighs 20% less than the Series 9.
And you can get the titanium in natural, gold, or slate.
So grey, gold, or grey.
Yeah, basically. I always quite liked in the stainless. I hadn't seen one for a long time, and I bumped into somebody and they're wearing it to work. And I actually thought, if you're at work and you've got a suit on, the stainless one actually looked quite dressy. I thought it looked quite nice.
Yeah, I think, to be fair to them, the finishes and colours that they've picked for the watch, with the exception of some of the blues and reds in previous years, do go quite well. You can dress them up by putting a jazzier strap on if you want, and that's always worked quite well for the Apple Watch.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you there. I think you can dress them up and down a bit. Most people, though, and I was probably a victim of this, just buy it and wear it, and that's kind of it.
I've got a few straps. We've talked about them in the past. I quite like that.
Do you change them often?
Now and then. The problem, I will say, is that the Apple Watch Ultra, because it sits off your wrist, bonus for a video viewers, because it sits off your wrist a little bit, the way it loops into the watch is a bit more awkward than it is in the standard Apple Watch. So standard Apple Watch straps don't feel quite right with it. You really want the Ultra straps for the way that they sit on it. So I've struggled a bit with that.
Yeah, I can understand that. And I did find all my old straps. I don't know what do you do with second-hand Apple Watch straps? You just throw them in the bin?
Well, they all still fit. I mean, that is one thing Apple have done really well, is even though they've increased the sizes of the watches over the years, the original straps will still fit for the large and the smaller watches all the way along, and I think that's really good.
Yeah, hats off to whoever came up with that mechanism. I've done a stunning job because it works for rubber bands, I don't know what they were called, polymer, weren't they? That's what they were called originally, and it works
Polymer,
for metal
elastomer,
bands,
yeah.
And then you've got fabric bands. They've done a fantastic job with it.
They have. It's very good. And these new watches come with new straps to go with them and new colours to match the new finishes and all the rest of it. And I think that's all good. There was then some, and I've become very quizzical about Apple's attempt to greenwash everything that they do. And apparently there's more recycled materials in these. They're only going to ship them by sea. This was last year, I feel.
Yeah, and I missed this bit of the show. Did they show the 2030 logo at this point?
Yeah.
Who came up with that font? It's absolutely hideous.
It's dreadful. It's very un-Apple.
It's very un-Apple. It just doesn't look right at all. They could have done something very Apple and really owned it. I was disappointed.
Yeah, poor. They then moved on to health features, many of which we've seen before. They talked about the noise recognition of noisy environments, which, by the way, works really poorly. If you put your watch near a kettle while you're boiling it, or I stand in the shower, I get told I'm in a noisy environment, and that's really not very good.
Right. Okay.
Medication reminders, things like AFib. They talked about the wrist temperature thing for ovulation, which is a good thing. I don't tend to ovulate to my knowledge, but I've never yet had a wrist temperature recording from my Apple Watch, and I have worn it 3, 4, 5 nights in a row.
Yeah, I can't comment.
They have a new health feature, which is sleep apnea. So sleep apnea is basically extended time between breaths. You could almost see it as really bad snoring, where you actually stop breathing briefly while you're snoring, and it is a health problem in the sense that it can be indicative of hypertension, a potential chance of you've elevated risk of stroke and things like that. Lots of men have sleep apnea, particularly after they've had a couple of drinks and they lie on their back. It is, of course, common in women as well. So this is a good thing that you can recognize. The treatment for it's not always the greatest thing, in that often people who suffer severe sleep apnea need things like CPAP machines. But I guess recognition of this is useful.
I think recognition of this is really good, because if it can tell you something and then you go and see a healthcare professional, it's great, because a lot of people may not join the dots and therefore just ignore it. So I think it's a good feature. I think it's really good.
It is good. They then said there's been a clinical study of unprecedented size. They didn't give a reference. The academic in me started screaming at that point that if you're going to do a study, then you publish it. Let's have the reference, please, and link to that. That wasn't there. And clearance for this is still needed from the FDA and presumably the MHRA and other regulatory bodies around the world.
Sorry, I was going to move on. I agree with you. But did they mention anything about what's the bit that's banned in America? Is that where they measure your heartbeat?
No, it's SpO2, pulse oxygen. It's blood oxygenation. That's banned in America. They didn't mention it at all.
They didn't mention it at all. Okay. I
not
wondered, is it still going to have the gubbins inside it? Like, I don't know.
Just do the deal, Apple. You're not able to talk about it anymore, and it's a problem.
It's just, it's very bizarre, I think.
It is. Moving on, they talked about fitness. The standard watch now has a depth gauge of sorts, i.e. it will give you depth to 6 meters. So the example they gave was for snorkeling.
Yeah, this looked like the Ultra. They've just taken what the Ultra does and they've moved it down the line, which I thought was quite good.
Only to 6 meters though, unless I misread or misheard what was going on
No,
there.
I think that's correct.
Yeah, so 6 meters is probably enough for snorkeling. You're not going to go much deeper than that without actually going diving.
And if you're a deep sea diver, you're going to have the Ultra, aren't you?
Or you're going to have a proper dive computer.
Oh, there is that.
Yeah. They're bringing a Tide app to the phone, which is good. It looked quite nice. It has knowledge of coastlines around the world. Tide's really useful. I use it for walking my dog, for example. It's nice to know if the tide's too far in that I can't take the dog to certain parts of the beach. But if you're a surfer or something, then that's really helpful.
So I use the Tide app quite a lot on my iPhone by a third-party developer, which I should include as thing of the week one week. I use it all the time when we go near the sea.
Yep.
It's really good. So it's nice to build it in.
Yep. Hopefully they haven't Sherlocked that developer. And there's a new built-in kayaking app, which has things that kayakists would want to know.
I completely missed that bit of it.
Yeah. There you go. That's it. New Apple Watch starts at $399, presumably the same in pounds, and will be available from September the 20th, so 11 days' time.
Yeah, it does look like September the 20th is the day for all the things.
Yeah.
Do you know what wordage they're using on the website to announce this new watch?
Oh, do tell.
So the new watch is thinner, right?
Mm.
And it's quite classic. So they've gone for Thinstant Classic.
Oh, that's really poor.
They obviously didn't use Apple AI to sanity check whether that name was any good. It's awful.
Maybe they did use Apple AI, and that's why it's like that.
Oh, it's awful. So just a quick note then on the cost. So 42mm is $399 here in the UK. And if you want the 46mm, it's $429. So it's only £30 more, which I think is pretty good to get if you want the bigger watch, it's only £30. I think that's pretty good.
And is that the aluminium finish?
Yeah, all aluminium, and that was just with GPS. If you want cellular, it's £100 on top. And it comes with a rubber band included, or you can have a textile band included in that cost. If you want stainless steel, then you need to pay another £50. So they are hitting at every price point.
They are, and the Apple Watch is a good product. I think lots of people wear them. You see a lot of them around there in the world. I think it's a solid update. It's not the most exciting thing. Sleep apnea is useful. Everything else is pretty much software, a bit bigger, a bit thinner. Typical Apple, I think. Sort of, they've moved half a point forward on this.
I must confess, at this point in the show, I thought it was a bit slow, but I thought that's a reasonable update. Fair play. I thought that was a good all-round, because sometimes the Apple Watch has literally been nothing. So I thought that was a good all-round update.
And then they talked about the Ultra 2.
Yeah, so speaking of nothing, I'm surprised this because they actually compared the new Apple Watch screen size to the Ultra. I thought, oh, that's interesting they're doing that, especially if they're not going to update the Ultra, and they haven't updated the Ultra. So I don't know if they just Sherlock their own sales.
That's not entirely true. They have updated the Ultra. It's in a new colour. It can get it in black now, Chris.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah,
I'm not a big fan of black watches, but I don't know.
I'm fine with the black watch. It looks very tactical and cool. But it's the same Apple Watch Ultra 2, which actually isn't drastically different from the original Apple Watch Ultra. The only differences really were improved GPS for more precise measurement of when you're doing track loops and things like that, and when you were running. Other than that, it's effectively the same as the original Apple Ultra that I'm wearing. So this is a very, very minor update. I'm glad they haven't increased the price. It starts at $799. You can now get Hermes loops for it and a new titanium Milanese loop to go with it as well. Great. I mean, these are things that you should probably have had anyway, frankly. And it's worth having a look, if you can, Chris, at the new sailing face that comes on the Apple Watch Ultra 2 with black, the Hermes face, that they said had beautifully readable numbers on it, and it's got backwards numbers. That's not readable at all.
Backwards numbers. Oh, yeah. Okay. If you go to apple.com, click on watch, click on the Hermes ones. Sorry, why is this beautiful and why is this good?
I think it's horrendous.
Yeah.
It's stylish, I'm sure.
My brain does not understand.
Yeah, I'm glad it wasn't just me. I was looking at it as he was telling us how great and readable the font was, and I thought that's neither great nor readable.
No,
and
they're
actually,
not backwards.
What is it then? It's just a funny font.
It's just a rubbish font. It's awful.
There you go. Yeah, it's dreadful. Sorry, Hermes, you've swing and a miss.
Yeah, none of their fonts are that good. Anyway, Hermes, yeah, very expensive. But I don't know, it's just a bit disappointing that the Apple Watch piece is moving so slowly. I thought it would be an area where they would really be innovating.
Oh well, at least the base model watch has got an improvement. But I'm with you. The Apple Watch Ultra 2, I wouldn't. I'm glad it's no more expensive. If you need the bigger battery, or you need something particularly about the Ultra 2, or you just like a chunkier watch, it's still not a bad price. But there's nothing new in it particularly.
I really liked it when I had one. I think, however, though, I think you'd be hard pushed to convince yourself to buy it this year, given that the Series 10 has got so much packed into it, and it's twice the price to get the Ultra.
Yep, I don't think you're wrong. Good. And that was it for the Apple Watch, unless we've missed anything.
Yeah, so I thought the Series 10, thumbs up. Ultra 2, I'm amazed they even bothered to announce what they've done.
Fair. Next up, AirPods. And I'm going to start this by saying I think the new AirPods 4, which we'll talk about in more detail in a minute, are the most interesting product they announced today.
So sadly, I missed most of this. But it sounds good. It's good they've got rid of the 2 and the 3 because I think that just confused people. I know there's now 2 versions of AirPods 4. So I missed most of this. So why do you like the
I'll talk you
AirPods
through
4?
this then. The first thing I liked was that they called them magically easy to use, which is one of the more understandable phrases because, to be fair to AirPods, they do work 98% of the time, let's say. New AirPods 4.
I would agree with that, by the way. I think it is quite cool.
Yeah. AirPods 4, they have an H2 chip. I don't know if the AirPods 3 had an H2 chip. I'm beginning to lose track of this stuff, but they've got whatever the chip is that makes them pair faster, work better, lossless audio, blah, blah. They have a new acoustic architecture, i.e. they put in better woofers or tweeters. They have personalized spatial audio now. So this is a feature that AirPods have had for a while where you can actually do an acoustic recording effectively of how well you hear something, and it will sort of change the listening profile just for you. More on that later. It's built in machine learning so it can recognize nods and shakes of your head. So when Siri says, do you want to reply, you can actually just shake your head no, and it will recognize that. So you don't actually need to reply to Siri when you're in some environments. It's better voice isolation. The charging case now has USB-C, and they come with 30 hours of battery life, or at least the case does, and you can recharge them in the case. It was just a very, very solid update to the AirPods 4. And all that.
I think that does sound good. The shake your head thing, I haven't tried it yet because I think that's coming to the AirPods Pro too at some point with an update probably this fall. I'm just nervous on that.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want them to fly out your ear. But all that new stuff, the USB-C case, and I think it's got the charging built into it as well, the MagSafe charging, which the base level AirPods didn't used to have, is $129. So I think that's a bit of a deal.
I'd agree with you. I think that is a good price. And my family love their AirPods, so I think that is pretty good. Sorry, I was just looking at the charging while we were talking, but I think you are correct.
Yeah.
Oh, no, hang on. Sorry, let's just circle back to that. So the AirPods 4 only works with USB-C.
Right. So the second AirPods 4 model, just to confuse and differentiate the line then.
So you mean the AirPods 4 with noise cancellation?
Yes. AirPods 4 with noise cancellation, transparency, adaptive audio, and conversation awareness, which are what we get in the AirPods Pro. Now you can get in an AirPods 4 model, which it won't work that well because you don't have the little flexible rubber tips the AirPods Pro have. So there's only so much you can do in software. You actually need a decent seal in your ear for them to work with. But I'm sure it'll be a solid upgrade. I'd want to hear them before I said if these were worth buying over the AirPods 4. But this seems reasonable. These do come with wireless charging, including Qi charging. You'll be able to charge your AirPods Pro case off a Qi charger. Apple Watch, and they have a speaker built into the case as well. So if you're using Find My or something like that, you'll find the case. And I think these are, again, for $179, a really good upgrade.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think they're really good. They've all got the H2 chip, by the way. I was just looking at the comparison page because that chip seems to have moved very slowly. The H chips that they do. They've actually got most of it. The difference between the Pro 2 and the AirPods 4 is you get 2 times more noise cancellation with the Pros, and you get loud sound reduction, conversation boost, and background sounds with the AirPod Pro 2. And that's the only difference, which for another £50-60 makes the 4s look really good.
I think they're a great choice, and I suspect a lot of that 2 times noise cancellation is literally down to the silicone tips you get on the Pros.
Yep, I think that's fair. But it feels like a good product, solid update.
Absolutely, and you got to think they sell a lot of AirPods.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, everybody's got AirPods or some equivalent.
So the other AirPods that they've finally updated are the ones you've got wrapped around your head right now, are the AirPods Max. They claimed they were new across the range, and I suppose adding USB-C charging to your headphones is new.
So the website, so when you go to the AirPods page, you've got AirPods new, AirPods Pro nothing, and then AirPods Max. It just says new colours underneath it. So it sounds like they've done the bare minimum.
The barest of bare minimum. They've changed it to be USB-C across the line. You can get spatial audio on them now, apparently, which is a software update, let's face it.
I'm so annoyed. I'm sorry, I'm really annoyed with this because they didn't have to do a lot, but I expected more than this.
This is even less than the bare minimum, frankly. I'm almost quite angry about it. That, well, on one level, people who just bought AirPods Max yesterday are going to feel pretty great about it. They're not missing very much, and I'm sure you've got no compelling reason to update yours now based on this. However, the rest of the headphone market is moving forward. Sony XM5s, Dyson headphones, Sonos headphones, the latest generation of Bang & Olufsen, Bowers and Willikins all make really much better than these active noise cancelling headphones. And sorry, Apple, you're about to lose your spot as being very near the top of the headphone manufacturing world.
Given how many people wear these things, and you see a lot when you go to cities, I'm amazed they've not done really anything. I just find, and I get why they might have kept the design looking the same because it is quite iconic. You see people with it, but they've still got the H1 chip in it. It doesn't do conversation awareness, doesn't do loud sound reduction, conversation boost, background sounds, doesn't have a force sensor or any touch controls. It's just bonkers, isn't it? I don't understand why we've waited 4 years for seemingly nothing.
Maybe suckers keep coming into the Apple store and giving them $550 and walking out, at very high levels, and they feel no compunction to update it.
But why don't they just make them £600 then and actually update them? Because people would probably pay that. I'm angry on this. This one's really annoyed me because I was in the market to buy some because I wanted to have a pair that I leave here, and I wanted a new pair with the same charger as all my other headphones. I'm not tempted to buy these at all. I'm really annoyed.
Okay. Yep, rubbish. The colours are quite pretty though.
Are they?
Moving on, the AirPods Pro hasn't changed at all.
When you said there was updates across the lineup, I was like, oh no, I'm going to be buying another pair of AirPods Pro and my wife will kill me.
No, but there is a new feature for AirPods Pro, so that's how they're saying this. So the AirPods Pro 2 are the same as they've ever been, really. They claimed it added profound new benefits, and there were 3 health features: prevention, awareness, and hearing aid. Well, prevention you knew about. That's the alerts and warnings that the noises around you. The awareness is it's telling you, and actually they've done some clinical validation. They didn't post this reference either. And all this data will be stored in Apple Health. But what they're saying now is that you'll be able to use your AirPods Pro as a clinical grade hearing aid. It'll be so good at picking up sounds mapped specifically to your ear. You can run a hearing test in software on the phone. It takes about 5 minutes, asks you a bunch of questions, and you tap on the screen when you hear highs and lows within it, in the same most hearing tests are, and then it will create a profile of your hearing loss, presumably at that point, and upload that profile to all your Apple devices. So you'll have a personalized hearing profile, even if you're hard of hearing. So if you're really struggling to hear particular tones in people's speech, this will boost it up for you.
This sounds quite cool. And again, if you don't know you've got a hearing problem, this is a way of you being told about it without you really having to do anything. I think it's quite cool. It's a bit like the sleep apnea piece. I think very clever.
How much is a hearing aid? I can't think they're cheap.
I think they ramp very quickly. That's my understanding from the older generation in my family.
So, if you've got AirPods Pro, it's probably at the higher levels of hearing loss. It's not going to be a replacement for a properly formatted hearing aid, for want of a better word, but it might get you through for a little bit.
Yeah, agreed, and it might make you aware of that you have actually lost your hearing. So I think that's good.
Yep, still needs FDA and MHRA clearance though, so it's not happening yet.
No, but they must be fairly confident about it.
Yeah, they must do. We've seen some of the products that get through, and we've talked about some of the software issues that have, on diabetic devices and the rest of it that have caused potentially deaths in people. So a hearing aid is not that.
True.
So software update to come for the AirPods Pro 2. Do you want to tell us about the new iPhone, Chris?
Well, I think we should just round out AirPods. Other than the AirPods Maxes, pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. I mean, it's a software update, some new colors, and then the AirPods the AirPods Proper. I think the AirPods Proper got a really good solid update.
Yeah. Like if you were buying somebody like a Christmas for your children a Christmas present, they really want some AirPods. Buying not the basic ones but the next level up. You probably get them on sale at Black Friday or near Christmas. It's a really good gift because they've got all the features. I think it's really good.
So here's the theme I'm seeing emerging here: is that the base models, the watch, the AirPods, and we'll talk about more things in a minute, are where the really exciting things are happening this time.
Yeah, do you know what? Maybe they have done a good reset of the base models where features have filtered down the line, but the top of the line hasn't got that exciting.
Yep, I think it's fair. Should we talk about the iPhone?
Let's talk about the iPhone. So I was back for all of this, and I started watching it, and it's pretty much what I expected. So we've now got a new iPhone with a new name. It's the iPhone 16. Comes in some new colours.
It's in some new colours, and I want to stress this, Chris, it's designed for Apple Intelligence.
I was a bit mixed on their wording there, because the other devices from just 12 months ago should be able to run Apple Intelligence.
We talked about this offline, and I think Apple missed a trick. I genuinely think that the large language model, ChatGPT's absolutely caught them on the hop.
100%.
They weren't ready for it. That's why they didn't upgrade the chip in the iPhone 15 last year, the standard iPhone 15. That's why they haven't increased RAM across their devices, all this kind of stuff. And suddenly they've realized they need headroom in memory and CPU and GPU performance to run these models locally on the phones. Therefore, they've had to go nuts and sort of slam the latest chips into their current phones.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think they've just been backed into a corner.
Yep. The standout feature, other than having the same silicon pretty much as what's in the Pro phones, is that it's got new colours and it's got 2 new buttons.
Yes, it's got 2 new buttons. It's got the action button that debuted on the Pro last year, which I think is good. I think it's a great button. I prefer it to the Switch because I actually use it. So I think that's good. And then we've got a new camera. No, what is it called? Camera button or
capture button?
Capture button. Camera control, they're calling it, aren't they? So
yeah.
You can use the action button to do something, and then you can use camera control to launch the camera, take a photo, which is exactly what I use the control button for on my current phone. And then it will also detect whether you're sliding your finger on it, which is quite neat. And you can use it to pick different modes. You can use it to zoom in and out. It looks pretty good, and it makes you wonder, standing here now, given that Apple have been the number one camera manufacturer for a long time now, how they haven't done more dedicated camera controls in the past.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Just let's circle back a second to the action button. I barely use it. I mean, I remapped it to be my camera. I quite often forget that it's my camera button, and I still press and hold the button on the screen a lot of the time. It was quite handy when I had it as the unlock for my bike, but then my bike started playing up. Remember the Android phone experience where the Android phone would reliably unlock it by getting near it every time. So it's been a bit of a forgettable thing for me. I don't really use it very much.
I use it all the time. It's the only way I access the camera. It annoys me marginally just for that when you use it to press it to take a photo, because it's just quite high up, and sometimes I notice my fingers at the bottom of the lens because the button's high up. But I've taken it off my home screen, the camera. When I'm at home, I've got the remote there and the torch. So I use it all the time for the camera. I love it. Dedicated button for the camera is fantastic. But it took me a while just to reset the muscle memory.
Maybe I need to make more of an effort, but I find it just gets in the way when I'm trying to do a screenshot. I quite often hit the action button by mistake, and I'm mystified as to why my screenshot's not happening.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
So, okay, but well done. More buttons are probably good. We say in cars more buttons are good, so let's say in phones more buttons are good as well. So the standard iPhone is getting the same capture button last year, and that button can be mapped to do all manner of things. It can be mapped to shortcuts. There was a feature that slipped by me a little bit where they said it can have a dual function, so once you're in an app, it can do something else as well. I didn't write that down, but that's vaguely in my head. They said you can do that kind of thing.
They did. I don't know if they want you to use shortcuts, or whether they've actually changed the UI for that this year. I don't know.
So that could be a thing, and you can map it to that. And then this new camera control, as you've said, on the standard iPhone, you sort of run your finger onto it and it will give you additional features within the Photos app. So the first example they showed was you can slide left and right to zoom in and out, or if you sort of push down a little bit harder on it, you can do things like change the depth of field or change the filters that are applied to it, that kind of thing within it. And that all looks very good.
Yeah, it kind of felt like it was more than just a button. So it's going to be interesting to see what it's like in real life. Is it actually going to work as advertised, or is it actually a bit fiddly? You know what I mean? Sometimes the devil's in the detail.
Yeah, wet fingers, that kind of stuff. We know how that can affect the screen, but if you've got you've been running and you're trying to capture that picture of the rabbit by the side of the road or something and you've got a sweaty hand, what happens then?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. But I thought it was good. They've placed it a lot lower. So for me, it means I wouldn't get my finger in the way. And it looks like we're getting rid of the millimeter wave piece, because normally they show you the phones with millimeter wave for America. So maybe that hasn't been that big a deal and that's disappearing.
Or maybe it's just built into an antenna somewhere else. They could have moved it around somewhere to another band of the phone. The question will come, will we be able to remap camera control to do other things? Like, it might be really handy when you're watching a film or something like that to put it in two times speed, or a podcast to do something else. I mean, I suspect not based on this introduction, but people are going to ask for that.
Yeah, people are going to ask for that. And I was a bit confused with it, why they've called it camera, because could you use it to scroll, I'm surprised they've restricted it just to the camera, or whether it will come in future years.
This is it. Maybe it's just them getting ready for what comes next to slide through your ChatGPT responses or something with that button. I don't know.
What I am doing, though, just while you're talking, is I'm just looking on the website to see whether it's still got a SIM card tray, just because they didn't mention it. And I don't think it has one.
That will, well, maybe in America. I mean, the current iPhone has no SIM card tray in America.
Yeah, I'm looking on the UK site. So that would be interesting, I think.
If they take it away, that's a problem for lots of networks in the UK. As we've talked about before, my network does not support eSIMs.
Yeah, which will be curious.
And I suspect the UK's not the most forward technological nation, but it's not the most backward either. And I presume there's lots of nations that have still got a long way to go with eSIMs.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. So I'd be amazed if they are doing it. Anyway, I won't get lost in that anymore.
Interesting. Other new features, it has a new lens layout. It's gone from having them sort of diagonally facing each other to being one under the other. That's primarily for spatial capture, we would say. Slightly brighter display. I believe it now goes to 2000 nits in the sun, or 1 nit for lower. The screen, this is a little bit bigger. Are they a little larger at 6.1 inches and 6.7 inches?
No, I don't believe so. I think they're at the same size.
So same as last year. We talked about the buttons, and then they went on and on and on and on, but more about Apple Intelligence. And then there's another bit later on where they talk about Apple Intelligence. But this is where they really started to hammer home that there was all sorts of machine learning stuff built in for your new iPhone.
Yeah, I think because a lot of Apple Intelligence from WWDC is still fresh in my mind, I was a bit annoyed at this point because it just went on and on and on, as you say. So I was frustrated with the Apple Intelligence piece, if I'm honest, because most of it was just a rehash of the summer. But it was nice to see Craig. He looks more like an actor every time I see him. And he'd obviously done his hair, But it was just frustrating, I think, how long it all went on for. They really needed a nip and tuck on this one.
Definitely. The new iPhone has an A18 chip, so it's jumped from the A16 to the A18, and now has a 16-core neural engine. More memory bandwidth. They didn't say if it had more memory. They just said it has faster performance of the memory. Another mention of Apple Intelligence is a 6-core CPU with 2 performance and 4 efficiency cores. They said it's 60% faster than the iPhone 12. Okay, that's a few generations back, but okay. And there's a 5-core GPU for Apple Intelligence. And then, as you say, they broke into Craig Federighi, who wasn't in Apple Park. He was over at one of the museums on the other side of California near Lucasfilm of San Francisco. They actually referenced it in the little video. And it's just like, here's Craig's bit, and Craig talked about Apple Intelligence for too long.
Agreed. They don't often wheel Craig out. Sorry, just back to the CPU a minute. I must confess, I struggle to know what's in every CPU anymore because they've got so complicated now with how many cores have they got, how many performance, how many efficiency, how many GPU. But they've obviously had to make it work for Apple Intelligence. So it's probably quite a good upgrade this year.
Definitely. I want to talk about that. When we get to the pros, I want to talk about their
Okay.
how they talk about the numbers related to the processor. Let's jump over Craig, except to talk about the one new thing he talked about, which is visual intelligence, which we haven't seen before. And when demoed, it's not a surprise. This is if you use the new capture button to take a picture of a restaurant, for example, it will bring up location-aware things about that restaurant and give you its menu, some pictures of what's going on there. If you take a picture of a dog, it will tell you what sort of dog it is. That kind of stuff, which is just highlighting a lot of the stuff that's already been in the background in photos before.
Yeah, I thought this was quite cool. The visual stuff looked good. It's an obvious place for them to go. They've got very good cameras and lots of smarts, so not surprised by any of this.
Yeah, but it's solid. We know that the Google phones are doing this, so they kind of got to, haven't they?
They have kind of got it, I think.
Yeah. So there you go, visual intelligence to go along with Apple Intelligence, and just stick the word intelligence on it. Yeah. The one thing I was a bit unsure about is the example they gave about if you're not sure about your homework, take a picture of it, and it came up explicitly as ChatGPT. ChatGPT will give you guidance for your homework. No, I don't like that. As somebody who teaches people all the time, don't use ChatGPT for your homework, kids.
No, quite. It was interesting that they were leaning in some of the screen grabs into third-party developers and apps a little bit more than just their own. They had Amazon icon on some of the notifications, and I did notice that. And they mentioned Slack. I think they were trying to not just pretend everybody just lives off Apple's first-party apps, which I thought was quite good. Interesting they had ChatGPT in there. Interesting they didn't mention anything about Gemini, because it felt like it was a lock that Gemini was coming as well. They mentioned it back in WWDC, so odd that didn't get a mention.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. The mention of Google Gemini or any of the other LLM models. It was Apple Intelligence, and then it was ChatGPT. But I guess for consumers, most of them know ChatGPT. They're less familiar with Google Gemini or some of the other models, Anthropic or whatever the other ones are. So, meh, yeah.
Yeah, I get it, but I thought they were going to lean into, and we give you choice, and you can use the service that you would like. So it is what it is. But no, the Apple Intelligence stuff, it looks okay. The proof's going to be in the pudding when we get it.
It is. A few more things about the camera. If you press and hold the new button, it will launch the camera. You can press and hold to record a short video, like an Instagram video or a TikTok or something like that. As we've mentioned, a light press will bring up the other photo elements and you can zoom. Other controls can be accessed in this light depth field. Third-party apps will be able to integrate with this, so you'll be able to share automatically in Snapchat, potentially, if you're using the capture button inside of that app. Any thoughts on that? Or we've talked about the capture button, really, haven't we?
I just think I genuinely think it looks good. I love taking photos on my phone a lot. It's probably the one thing I would enjoy having if I had this phone. I just think it was really useful, and I often take selfies with the family with my wife's phone, and you just use the volume up button as the old days used to be.
Yeah. It has a 48 megapixel main camera, which they're calling a fusion camera, as they sort of do the balance thing between the two lenses as they did last year on the Pro models. They said they're really flexing on the camera, which I don't like that use of that word.
It kind of feels like they've just taken all the Pro stuff and moved it down. You only get the two lenses, but they've just moved it all down.
Yep. The other lens is a 12 megapixel photo 2 times. It's got 4K 60 frames per second for video, which is good. That's what the Pro feature was last year, I think. It has an ultra wide. It does spatial captures we've talked about. Apparently the microphones are better. It's got better audio, and they've redesigned the photo app, which they talked about at WWDC, and I think that was it for the camera. But again, good solid upgrades across the line for the iPhone 16.
Yeah, as you said already, I think the regular device seems to have got a lot of the Pro features moved down to it, which is really good.
Yep. Some stuff about the redesign of the phone. It's got better thermals. They say that here. I don't believe it. It just gets hotter every year.
The thermal stuff was interesting. They made a compelling case, and I know they've done it on the iPad Pro that I bought earlier in the year, the M4. They said they've done some thermal work there, so I'm willing to give them benefit of the doubt. But again, I think the proof's in the pudding. It probably depends on what case you've got as well, whether you use wireless charging, whether that will add load. But that's obviously their weakness now. Their chips are starting to get run hot like Intel or IBM used to, and they used to complain about it. But now they're trying to do so much more with them. It's obviously a problem, and they are trying to deal with it.
I watched a review for the new Volkswagen Golf not long before the event started on Carwow. He's quite a good reviewer. The new Volkswagen Golf has a cooling vent next to the MagSafe chargers to cool your phone down.
Which makes sense because usually when you're wirelessly charging your phone and doing satellite and CarPlay and GPS, it gets a smidge warm.
But isn't that interesting that car manufacturers are solving a problem for the phone makers?
Yeah.
Moving on, they added some game I've never heard of. Apparently, it's got hundreds of millions of players. It's called Honor of Kings World. It's made by Tencent, who also make a number of the big multiplayer games like PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds and things like that. Not coming till next year. Never heard of it.
I'll probably never see it again.
No,
I'm sorry. I'm just not wanting to play that kind of game on a small screen.
Yep, fair. We're getting some iOS 18 features, so we'll get messages via satellite, and the UK will be the first country outside of America to get roadside assistance via satellite.
Woo! Oh, that's good. The message via satellite, I think that had already been announced, hadn't it? I think they were just confirming it again.
It was it was definitely announced at WWDC, but I don't know, as with all things, was it coming to the lower down phone or would it have been a feature of the Pro phone, so I don't know.
I can't remember now, if I'm honest.
Yeah. The smaller phone starts at $799 and the Plus model starts at $899.
Which feels like they've held the price.
Yep. Good, fine, great, A+. This is fine for me. Maybe not A+, A. I think on the iPhone 16.
So
good, solid upgrades.
In the UK, that's £799.
Of course it is.
I think that's quite a lot of phone for the money.
I agree. It's quite a lot of fun for the money. There you go.
I think if you've been holding off, that's the phone. If you're a regular user, you've maybe got an iPhone 12, that's a solid upgrade. You've got a lot of pro features that have been pushed down there.
I think it's a great phone. The base phone is... Well, let's talk about the iPhone Pros before we get into that.
The only thing they did mention was Ceramic Shield now coming to the base phone. I didn't know if that was already on there.
No, they said that Ceramic Shield 2 for the base phone.
So that's got to be good as well.
I guess.
But remember a few years ago we said nobody should buy the iPhone 14 and we both did for various family reasons. I think this is a phone we're saying you should definitely buy it.
Yeah, if you're a couple of generations back, I agree with you. I think this is a great phone. Great phone. It's got all the features you want. It has the dynamic island. It has the buttons that you want to be part of it. It's got a fast enough chip. It can do the Apple Intelligence. You'd be pretty cheesed off if you bought an iPhone 15 last year and you're not getting a lot of the Apple Intelligence features. So sorry if you bought an iPhone 15 last year, but the 16's the way to go.
I completely agree, and I shall be making a purchase because family members need a phone, and so we can pass them down through the generations.
Fair enough. Should we talk about the iPhone Pros?
Let's do it, but we should know at this point we were over an hour in. That's all I wanted to say. It was a long show for what was very menial updates.
And frankly, there's not that much to say about the Pros, so let's fire through this very quickly. They also get this new camera button. So we keep the action button from last year and we get the new dynamic camera button, whatever it's called. Camera button? What's it called? Capture button? Camera control. That's what it's called.
Camera control. Sorry, I was stitching my brain. It's interesting that they've announced it for the non-Pro phone. The non-Pro phone is going to get it at the same time. Normally, like with the action button, the Pro phone got it last year. Regular phone gets it this year. I'm surprised the camera control has gone to both so quickly.
Yeah. I didn't think the intro was very good. Tim was very excited to show off, and this is what it looks like. And it was just your typical, slow motion pan across the edges of the device, and then you get a new color. Yay. Not a great intro. They're slightly bigger. They're 6.3 inches and 6.9 inches, mostly brought about by having thinner bezels. I think he said thinner edges. He said it weirdly. He didn't say bezels, but we know what he means. He means thinner bezels on the phone. So the devices themselves aren't any bigger, but the screens are.
I think they are a little bigger, but not that much bigger, if that makes sense. That's how I thought it came across.
Okay, you might be right. I'm just going off the marketing blurb that we've just watched. They also claim to have better thermals. Go on.
So the iPhone 15 Pro, the one I have, is at 146.6 millimeters high, whereas the iPhone 16 Pro is 149.6, so it's 3 mil taller.
Okay, so they are bigger screens and bigger phones.
1 mil wider, but I think they've lost a little bit of it in shrinking the bezel, so it's not as wide as it could have been.
Right.
They're also going to weigh a little bit more too. So the iPhone 15 weighs 187 grams, and the 16, and these are all the Pro phones, will weigh 199. So it's gone back up a little bit.
We're not going to do an exit interview a la ATP, but just on balance, this phone is better balanced. They always felt very top heavy to me before. The Pro Max phones particularly, they always want to tip over in my hand. and this one has felt a lot better balanced than my previous Pros.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be sitting tight. I've declared my hand.
We'll come to that at the end, but they will be available in black, white, natural, and desert colors. So grey, light grey, and gold.
Yeah, read the room, Apple. Come on, we want some colours. Desert titanium, natural titanium, white titanium, black titanium. I mean, if I went and bought the white phone again, I do love my white phone. I don't think I'd notice any difference.
I've been quite happy with this boring grey colour phone that I've got. I've always had a clear case on it so I can see it. Everybody's very excited about the fact that the base model iPhones have got cool colours again, because the faded pastel ones last year were dreadful. So
awful.
Let's have some colour, please, Apple.
Yeah, agreed.
They have better thermals, and here's another of my favourite phrases: bonded with solid-state fusion. What does that mean?
If you're going to try and fix it yourself, you're never going to get that glue off. That's what that means.
It's not coming apart. Yeah, you can get one of those machines that they charge huge amounts to rent, and you're still not getting it off. There was a whole bunch of stuff about Apple Intelligence, so you can drink again at that point. And then we went back to Sri to talk about the chips, and Sri, they cut to him every single time they were this. And I thought this whole section was dreadful. His earlier ones were fine. They were very clear. All of the stuff about more neural cores and CPUs and all the rest of it. But this one was all over the place. It now has a 16-core neural engine, okay, with Apple Intelligence, drink. It's got more AI in it, drink. It's 50% faster than the base model, drink, because that's got Apple Intelligence to it. It's a 2 times faster GPU than an A17 Pro. That's decent, actually.
That's year-on-year upgrade.
That's a decent upgrade. The CPU is faster than an A17 Pro. 15% faster. Not quite the upgrade, but the GPU's obviously done a lot better on that. The whole thing was just very confusing. It was, this is faster, this is slower, this is an A17, this is an A15, this is an A16, this is an A14, this is a base model iPhone. And it was just all over the place. It was a notably poor segment. And I don't blame Sri for that. He doesn't write his own scripts. He did the best job he could with what he was given, but it was just poor.
It doesn't help where you're comparing this one phone to 3 other phones, I think, because and I guess on the story they want to tell, we're going to compare this to last year, but we're going to compare this bit to 2 years ago or whatever it may be. So I don't disagree, and like I said, I can't remember what's got what in it anymore, if I'm being honest.
And I'm fed up of hearing it's our best X ever, or it's the best X we've ever made. Of course it is. It's your new phone. This isn't surprising. This is the best screen we've ever put on an iPhone. Of course it is. Nonsense.
Yeah, it is bizarre, isn't it?
For photos and videos, it is a 48 megapixel fusion camera. I'm slightly unclear that they've all tetra prism lens. Is this the same camera that's on the base model phone now, or is there a difference between them?
It sounded like they're the same. Just for the fusion camera, the main camera, it sounds like they've got the same lens, which is bizarre.
Yeah, it is. They look the same size on it. They're noticeably larger cameras on the iPhone 16 now. 48 megapixel ultra wide, still got the same 5 times telephoto, although that's now on both phones. It's on the iPhone Pro as well as the Pro Max. The same lenses are on both phones. There was a whole bunch of here about the capture button that we've already talked about. I was genuinely getting quite bored by this point. That they were just rehashing stuff that they'd already done unnecessarily.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So I was just looking at the cameras as you were talking. Other than Dolby Vision 4K at 120 frames, it looks like they're exactly the same cameras on the Pro and the non-Pro. Very bizarre. Obviously, you do get the 5 times telephoto on the Pro phone, but that regular phone's looking a pretty sweet upgrade.
As you think about it more and more, I think that is actually one of the first years I could consider I'd be probably quite happy with the base phone. I don't know that they haven't sold the Pro Max to me enough this year.
No, if I didn't have last year's Pro, I would, and I was thinking about upgrade, and I had to upgrade, I'd probably just get the regular one.
Yeah. It has 4 studio quality mics. I don't know what that is. What's a studio quality mic?
I don't know, but how many people, I guess quite a lot of people do actually hold their phone like this while they're walking down the street and talk into it. I barely ever use the mic on my actual phone, if I'm honest. I usually have my AirPods in.
Fair. This is the only mention of the Apple Vision Pro in the whole presentation. That's going to be good when you're consuming content on your Apple Vision Pro if you're recording it on your phone. That's not a great shout for the Apple Vision Pro.
Bit weird, isn't it? Very little said about it. I'm surprised by that.
Yep. It has quite a clever audio mixing feature where it's able to separate various parts. So if you're filming, it's interesting they keep going to film with this, and all their examples were filming stuff I guess that's the pro end use for these things. But if you were filming two people in a restaurant, you'd be able to isolate both characters' audio from the background, and that's pretty cool.
It's pretty clever processing, but it's amazing. Is this all done in the camera app? It feels like, come on now, you need a basic camera app, I think, and you need to start. You're piling too much into one app, is what it feels like.
Very much. So that was the audio mixing feature, which is quite cool. And then there was a new feature for voice memo as well, where you can overlay tracks too. Do musicians really use that kind of thing? Do they want to listen to the guitar riff they just put down and then sing over the top of it?
This felt a bit weird. Surely this is third-party app territory now, where what you can do now in voice memos is you can put one track over the other. So if I was drumming on the table, I could record it, and then I can't drum, by the way, and then I could record a second track and sing over the top of it. I just felt that's not really what voice memos should be for. But I don't know, maybe I'm missing something.
No, I agree with you. It's weird. I mean, haven't you got GarageBand on your phone? GarageBand on your phone to do that?
Yeah, it seemed like an odd use case for me. But
yep.
Obviously, maybe people are using it, and we're not in that world.
We're not in that world, and maybe we're being vastly unfair. And this is Apple's most requested feature for voice memos, that they want to be able to record audio in it for bands. They then ran a far too long video about filming a new video for The Weeknd, and The Weeknd isn't The Weeknd that's upcoming, it's The Weeknd the artist. I think he's The Weeknd, isn't he?
The Weeknd, I don't know.
Anyway, it looked quite cool. They used iPhones to do it. It's super slow motion because it's got 120 frames per second. Super slow-mo.
I thought it looked good, but I can't believe they didn't have a quote from The Weeknd going, "This is amazing. We got a really good finish to the video. I can't believe we only shot it on an iPhone."
Do you know what it made me think of? Seal demoing the iMac G4 back in the day, going, "Oh," when he pulled the screen towards him. It was that sort of vibe.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that? Yeah, they wheeled out a seal to to demo the iMac G4 with the Englepoise one. But it was gratuitous celebrity endorsement, not quite. It's a cool feature. It's quite a nice way to show it. But come on, is that really the best you can do? You filmed the whole of this event on iPhones and edited it on Macs. Surely you can find something more useful.
Yeah, agreed. But I don't know about you, but I found the Pro section a little bit quick and choppy compared to the slow pace of the rest of it. And I wonder if the editor got to this bit and was like, "Oh, I'm bored now, I just need to get through it." So it was just really bizarre to me how it was put together. It felt like two different people had either written the script or edited it. That the Pro bit was just really quick and was quite a disappointing Pro bit.
I think as they're not the most exciting phones this year, the Pros. I got to say, I don't think there's massive upgrades from last year's.
There weren't massive upgrades last year either.
No, that's true. There are new cases for these phones because they're a bit longer. They're a bit larger. That answers my question as well, doesn't it? They're a bit larger. Yeah. There's a new MagSafe charger that will charge even faster. They're now compatible with Qi 2.
But you can't tell a difference between the MagSafe chargers because they look exactly the same. But I like that they're carrying it on, and I can carry on using my old MagSafe chargers, but they'll be slower. But for the new phones, I can buy this new MagSafe charger, and it will charge a bit quicker. I think they've done that a nice job.
So I bought a gizmo at the weekend. I bought a plug-in at the wall and see exactly how much power a device is drawing, and plug my iPhone in when it was on 6%, and it draws 30 watts. Bang! Immediately, straight out of the wall. So it's good that they can do that and they can charge that quickly.
Yeah, no, it is cool. So I thought I love the MagSafe stuff. We've got them all around the house, and I promised my son when he gets a hand-me-down iPhone, he'll get MagSafe and he can have it in his room too because it is cool. And my eldest loves. I can't remember what the feature's called, where you put it horizontally, and you get the big font when you go to bed on the screen. So I think that I love MagSafe. Do you know what I find though with it? Not many people use it. I've never seen very MagSafe chargers at other people's houses. I find that bizarre.
Yep, got one in my van. It supports Qi 2 now as well. I'm tempted to buy a Qi 2 charger just to see what the compatibility is like, whether it's got the magnets, all that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yep. They start at $999 for the small one and $1,199 for the big one, and I think that's the same price as last year.
Yes, same price as last year, especially here in the UK.
Yep, and you can pre-order Friday.
Yeah. I was just going to grab the price. So here in the UK, it is $999, and you only get 128 of storage there.
Really?
Yep. I thought that was going to get increased. So you have to pay £100 here in the UK to go from 128 to 256. I think 256 should be the minimum on the Pro device.
I agree. And that was it. That was the event. Except I just want to pour one out No mention of woven, fire-woven, anything. There was silicone cases. There was no leather cases. That was it.
Okay, so do you want some tidbits?
Yeah, go for it.
Apple discontinues fine woven cases, offers silicone and plastic for iPhone 16 models. That is on Mac Rumors. They've also commented that Apple's Beats brand debuts new cases for iPhone 16. I don't think Beats has ever done iPhone 16 or iPhone cases. The Pro models weigh slightly more, which we've discussed. This one, though, is quite cool. All iPhone 16 models support Wi-Fi 7. That's pretty good.
Why didn't they mention that? That's a big deal.
I mean, even just as a throwaway line, especially when you've got so little to say about the Pro phone. And the iPhone Pro Max has the longest ever iPhone battery life at 33 hours.
Should we do our exit interviews for a phone? I'm getting rid of my phone, so it's not really an exit interview. But should we talk about how we found our iPhone 15s?
Yeah, go for it.
The battery life has been really disappointing. It's fine. I don't think it's any better than it was on my last outgoing phone. That may be a function of now having a beta on the phone and all the stuff that comes along with that. But I don't really remember thinking this, considering I've got a brand new phone with a brand new battery, it being hugely better than what I had before. And I guess that might be the always on display, but I haven't been particularly blown away with the battery on this phone.
I would concur with that statement. The battery, like you said, I don't know if it's the beta, some of the Apple Intelligence stuff. It's not been, I'm going to make a quote here from Apple, blow away. It has been disappointing.
Yeah. The action button for me is a bit of a disappointment. The camera.
That's where you're wrong. The action button is fantastic.
Okay, well, we'll agree to differ on that.
No, you're wrong. There's no need to disagree. You're wrong.
Well, you don't know what my experience is, Chris. I haven't used it.
But do you not think this, that sometimes when you get a new feature, because you've not had it and you're so used to using something for 15 years, it's hard to make it sticky. And I've used this before, like with Microsoft Copilot, because I've not had it for the last 20 years of using Word or Outlook. I've struggled to build it into my life because I'm not used to it, whereas probably newer people that have just started their corporate careers will have it with them and they use it all the time.
Maybe. I've had this phone a year and it hasn't got sticky, and I have tried to make myself use it, and I have tried to map it to different functions. It's been a bit of a nothing for me. I hope this new button does better for the 16, and maybe Rod's task to take him out of his comfort zone for the next week is to make sure you use the blooming button. Because I use the other buttons all the time. I double tap to get in my wallet all the time. Yeah. So it's not like I'm adverse to buttons.
I think you should come out of your comfort zone because I love it. I just wish it was lower down because my fingers get in the way, as I said. USB-C, though, has got to be a win on the iPhone 15.
Yeah, that's definitely been a win on the iPhone 15. I have enjoyed having USB-C on more of my things. I get caught out every so often when I go to plug it into my AirPods and I've still got the Lightning AirPods. That always surprises me. So yeah, I think on balance, I like the always-on display. I wasn't sure I was going to at the start of it. I very much like USB-C. I like the balance of the phone again. I think it's more comfortable on my person than the previous Pro Maxes have been.
And it weighed less.
Yeah. So all that's a win. The battery's a loss. The sort of temperature of the thing, it quite often, as we've hinted at, and thank you Volkswagen for bringing cooling to it, when I'll put it on a MagSafe charger or a Qi charger or something in the car, it will quite often stop charging because it can't cope with running all of the things at the same time. The thermal management of them has not got better, so I hope that is something that's improved. Other than that, I think I'd give it a solid B+, my iPhone 15 Pro Max.
Yeah, so I just took mine out of my pocket while you were talking. I was just looking at thinking, what's new? So camera button tick, I use it all the time. USB-C, I love it. What I don't love on USB-C is the fact I've stuck a little grommet in it because I just find it, for whatever reason, it picks up rubbish out of my pocket and I struggle to charge it, which is fine when I'm using MagSafe, which I predominantly do, but occasionally I want to plug my USB-C cable in it. The USB-C bit for me has been amazing because I just have my iPad and my phone. When I go anywhere, I literally just need one cable. I think that is such a quality of life improvement. Very happy with that. On the whole, I think it's a good phone. Should I have upgraded from my iPhone 14? Probably not. Am I going to upgrade to iPhone 16? Probably not. I think I'm going to stick with it for you. I don't think there's enough compelling in here for me, and I know my wife wants a phone so that she can pass hers on to our children. So I think we're going to do that.
I did think it was interesting how heavily they were pushing. You'll get a lot of money if you trade in a previous phone for this. All the phones they were saying, up to $800.
So the upgrade's minor kind of thing. It's not, you're not spending £1,000 on a new phone. You only spend 500. It was interesting.
That was definitely something that they've done it before, but never as obviously, I think, as they did this time.
Yeah, they were. They were leaning into it way more than I'd appreciate, I think.
Yeah, and that was it. That was the event.
Yeah, it was long.
It was long. It was too long.
So interestingly, sorry, just to finish on what you were just talking about, if I trade in my 15 Pro iPhone, they will give me up to £555.
So you've still got to find 450 odd pounds to go to the next model up.
Which is what I did last year, I think. I traded in my 14 Pro. But now I have children wanting old phones. So, shall I trade it in and get £500? Or actually, rather than buy them an £800 phone, shall I just give them this phone? Because it's a very good phone. So there you go.
See, this is where I have been for years, as they were getting hand-me-downs. But now, mine are 18 and 21. They want new phones. They don't want my hand-me-down phones. They want new phones.
Well, that's their problem. They need to pony up the money for it, I would suggest.
Get out there and work.
Yeah. It's tricky, isn't it? But equally, I'm trying to keep the grandparents going as well. So it's really hard, isn't it? You're trying to serve both ends of the family tree.
Fair enough. Well, we've got probably follow-up next week once we'll get time to digest this a little bit. And, there's things that we've been off and done in the absence in the last week. I know you the Apple Vision Pro, for example. We need to catch up on that. I'm going to be in the United States this time next week, so there's things to think about there as well. But other than that, I think we can call this a show, Chris.
I think we can. It was good to have a catch up, and we completed the show quicker than it took Apple to announce not a lot.
Fair enough.
Cheers, Rod. If anybody wants to get in contact with us, Rod is at g5maniac@marston.scot. I'm at _CJP at marston.social. You can watch on YouTube if you go to wakefromsleep.com and click on the YouTube link, or you can drop us an email at wakefromsleep@protonmail.com.
Talk to you next week, Chris.
Cheers, Rod.